Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. In Nier Reincarnation, let's continue translating the chronology at the end of the materials book. I did part 1 in a previous video, I'll link to that below. This is going to be part 2 or page 2. It will span from 1899 to 2008. And then it'll be kind of the inverse of part 1. Part 1 was very heavy on reincarnation, but this part 2 will be light on reincarnation, and we'll talk more about kind of general Nier matters. First event is in 1899. The Empire in the West begins the infant abduction strategy. On the Western continent, the goal of the infant abduction strategy is to kidnap children of good genes from the neighboring country to raise and train them as soldiers. The strategy was kept top secret even within the army. And so that brings us to Lars and Griff's story. And we're seeing that this is taking place on the United States of America, or where that would be. Next event, we skip to 1915. The 25th Regiment, 6th Company, successfully executes their zero deaths strategy. This is laid out particularly in Griff's story, if I remember, but he began as a very hot-headed, glory-seeking guy. But when he saw some of the realities of war, he turned to wanting to protect the lives of the men that he was now in charge of. One of whom was Lars, and then we see that he does complete a mission with zero deaths. This may also be referring to the Recollections of Dusk story, where Griff's unit is captured behind enemy lines, and they escape with zero deaths there as well. Next event is 1918. In the capital, the Sunflower Uprising occurs. An uprising occurs within the army, consisting of infant abduction strategy survivors. In later years, it is revealed the survivors wish to face their fate like sunflowers facing the sun, thus leading to the name. This is explained in Lars's Recollections of Dusk story, where he and the other victims, survivors of the infant abduction strategy, seek to get revenge on the person who created the program. And then, final event from this series, from these two characters' world, is in 1918. The infant abduction strategy is made public. The commanding officer of the 25th Regiment, 6th Company, gives his name to a news article revealing the infant abduction strategy. After this revelation, negative public outcry leads to the end of the war. This is a cool arc for Griff. Again, he started out as hot-headed, and he wanted glory, but then he turned to the safety of his troop, and then he ultimately achieved basically his ultimate goal, which was to end the war. Alright, and that is the end of the reincarnation portion of this video. All of the rest of it is going to start from 2003, which may be a familiar date. But in June, a mysterious giant and red dragon appear in Shinjuku, Tokyo. This is referred to as the 612 incident. A white-colored giant and a red dragon suddenly appear in Shinjuku, attacking each other. The source and nature of the attacks is unknown, but the Japanese Self-Defense Force immediately begins study and research. The Japanese government forms a special council to address the incident. The dragon kills the giant, but when the giant hits the ground, the impact is lighter than expected. After the destruction of the giant, an aircraft nicknamed Scarface of the Air Force's 6th Fleet 303rd Unit attacks and eliminates the dragon. The remains of the dragon are taken to a secret research facility. From now, the incident is referred to as the 612 incident. 56 were killed, 320 suffered injuries, and over 60 billion yen in damages occurred. The inexplicable images of the event made their way to the World Wide Web. Confusion spread as rumors started of the incident being linked to terrorism or attacks from other countries. So this is the event that we see at the end of Dragon Dragoon 1, which will lead to or influence so much of what comes next. Next date is the same year, 2003, September, and from here I'm going to include the months of the date, because they're going to be more relevant here. There are going to be a lot of events happening every year. But the world leaders convene. 3 months after the 612 incident, World leaders from Japan, China, the US, and Russia meet. The US recognizes it as a terrorist attack and vows to stand up to potential enemies. The Japanese government offers funding. 2003, December. First case of a new disease is reported. In Shinjuku, Japan, a novel pathogen emerges. It turns the affected into white mineral with a 100% fatality rate. Study begins on the disease, but not seriously. 2004, February. Deaths from the new disease increase sharply. The number of infected increases dramatically, mostly centered around Shinjuku. 2004, April. Some infected experience a change in behavior to savage and ferocious. Among the infected, some turn wild and violent. Shinjuku becomes an area empty of all but the dead and the savage. Japan and other nations of the world redouble their research efforts. 2004, May. The savage infected spread. According to research, the infected become either the dead or the savage. 2004, June. The disease is named the white chlorination syndrome. A research group formed in December 2003 announces their findings. The cause for the white mineral deaths or savage infected forms are not known, but they originate from the same disease. The Japanese government headquarters and imperial family propose to move locations, but are vetoed by the Imperial Household Agency. The proposed moves cannot gain enough votes, and they remain. 2004, July. Shinjuku enters the highest state of emergency. Shinjuku enters emergency level 4. All access to Shinjuku is stopped and destruction of roads and rails begins. 2004, September. The Shinjuku blockade plan is proposed. A plan is proposed to cut off Shinjuku completely. Public demonstrations reject this proposal, but online sentiment is more favorable. When an important public figure is killed in Shinjuku by a savage infected, and the killing makes national news, public opinion turns to the blockade. 2004, October. The Shinjuku blockade plan begins. Jericho's wall is erected. A great wall is built around Shinjuku, effectively blockading the area. The wall is nicknamed Jericho's Wall. Protests occur worldwide, and the Japanese government is condemned. 2004, December. The final images from within the walls are leaked. A reporter who voluntarily stayed within the walls sends out a final transmission. A giant white beast screams before the transmission cuts out. The images are not shown on the news, but they find their way to the World Wide Web. 2005, December. White chlorination syndrome cases suddenly stop increasing. The Japanese Self-Defense Force and the police force continually work to exterminate the savage infected. The Japanese government announces infections have stopped increasing, but the research continues. 2006, May. Details of the white chlorination syndrome are released. Research shows that whether an infected goes savage or dies is decided on a genetic level. Individuals with slight irregularities in their chromosomes are more likely to go savage. This information is kept a secret from the public. 2006, month unknown. The research center holding the remains of the dragon is attacked. The research center holding the remains of the dragon is attacked, but is protected by the Japanese Self-Defense Force and the police. Rumors are the attack was engineered by a cult or by the Americans. After this attack, the Japanese Self-Defense Force ramps up activities. 2007, October. Satellite imagery of Shinjuku shows an aberration. Satellite imagery of Shinjuku shows a black dot, ruled an aberration. The dot is not ruled important and is not reported. 2008, February. Jericho's wall falls. An attack from within the walls knocks it down. A sound similar to that made by the giant on 6/12 is heard. Daegyeon and red eyes appear. From within the walls rush out large white monsters, later named Daegyeon. They kill humans with ease. Among the Daegyeon are red-eyed versions who seem to control the others. 2008, the Japanese Self-Defense Force announces the Daegyeon extermination plan. The Japanese Self-Defense Force announces the Daegyeon extermination plan. The Red Eyes organize the Daegyeon, and they become more difficult to deal with. 2008, May. White chlorination syndrome infections rise. Infections began from Shinjuku, Tokyo, and moved towards the Kanto area. 2008, August. The research facility holding the dragon remains secretly changes locations. The research facility with the dragon remains moves out of Japan, rumored to have gone to North America. 2008, September. The seat of government and the royal family move to Kyushu. The Japanese government and the imperial family agree to move to Kyushu, where infections are low. 2008, October. The entirety of Honshu becomes a war zone. The numbers of Daegyeon increase, and the entirety of the main island of Japan, Honshu, becomes a battleground between the Daegyeon and the self-defense force. An increasing number of people escape to the Kyushu and Hokkaido islands. Some seek to escape the country, but are stopped by the Immigration Bureau. Crime rises. The Japanese government is helpless. The United States offers to help militarily, but the terms are onerous enough that Japan refuses. And that's it. That's as far as page 2 goes. I found it chilling to go through and translate this and read this. Something about all of these kind of written in a tone of an encyclopedia or a news article kind of made it felt more believable, more real, more possible. One of my favorite movies is Children of Men, and it's terrifying, that film, precisely because it seems so believable and so real, and I got that kind of same sense going through this. Pretty exciting stuff. But yeah, the majority of this was from not Nier Reincarnation, and I would be curious to hear from folks that know more about the lore, if any of this information here counts as a new revelation. Okay, I'll get to work translating the next page. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.